My name is Misha and I'm here to elaborate another topic which is phylum Hemichordata. Hemichordate is made up of two words which have two separate origin. The word hemi has Greek origin and it means half, and chorda has Latin origin and its mean chord. This phylum has two classes. Number one is Enteronapusta and number two is Pterobranchia. All hemichordates, no matter which class they belong to, are exclusively marine and they are deuterostomate animal. Their body is always divided into three regions. First one is proboscis, second one is collar, and the last one is trunk. They have coelom, which is actually divided into different small cavities present in their bodies. They all have pharyngeal slits, which contain cilia in them. The third character which they got is the open circulatory system. Fourth character is the complete digestive tract. The digestive tract having two different openings. One is for intake of food and second one is for the defecation purpose. And last but not the least is the dorsal and sometimes tubular nerve cord. Now it's time to elaborate class Enteronopusta. The common name of this class is acorn worm. Acorn is actually the fruit of oak tree which looks like this. Its size ranges from 10 to 40 centimeter, and there are 70 species present in this phylum. If we talk about the habitat, they live in burrows which are U-shaped and present in the marine substrates. This picture depicts the actual habitat of an Enteronacosta. Here you see the U-shaped burrow in which two openings are present. One is the inlet and the other one is for defecation. And the animal is present at the loopy region of U-shaped burrow. If we talk about the morphology, then Enteronacosta body is divided into three clear-cut regions. First region is called proboscis, which is actually a sharp conical anterior end. You may say it is analogous to the head portion. It is actually the retractable portion of its body. Second one is collar. This region is analogous to the neck. It is ring-like posterior to the proboscis. And the last region is trunk. This region is elongated and most of the length of the body covered by trunk. This diagram perfectly demonstrates the three regions of the Enteronapusta body. The first region is proboscis, which is actually the conical region. Second one is the collar. Here it is very prominent here in this diagram. And the last one is trunk, although the complete trunk is not present here, but you can imagine this. This is the elongated portion which ends at the anal portion. The complete body of Enteronapusta is covered with epidermal layer. This layer is actually ciliated and a lot of glandular cells are present on the epidermal layer. The main function of these glandular cells is to produce mucus which actually give this sticky texture to this epidermal layer. The mouth is present ventrally between the proboscis and the collar and is completely surrounded with cilia. Many pharyngeal slits are present. Their number actually varies from few to many. These pharyngeal slits are actually the opening. These openings are present at the anterior region of the digestive tract in a special structure called pharynx, and these are open outside the body as well as inside the digestive tract, and their position is laterally to the trunk. After morphology, let's talk about the physiology of these organisms. The first function which I would like to elaborate is the feeding and digestion. There are two mechanisms of feeding present in these organisms. Number one is deposit feeding and number second is suspension feeding. Let's talk about the deposit feeding. In deposit feedings, the organism actually consumes sediments like sand or mud having lot of organic matter. After consuming these sediments, they absorb the required dietary material from this sediment, and the rest of the sediments, which are actually the waste, is then defecate out of the body in the form of feces or casts. These casts are actually present, or you can see these casts on the other opening of the U-shaped burrow. Now I'm going to talk about the suspension feeding. In suspension feeding, organism is basically dependent on the suspended organic particles present in the water. These organisms allow a lot of water to enter in their body, and their gut definitely have a mechanism to get rid of this water while filtering the suspended organic matter in this water, and these suspended particles, which are now filtered in the gut, is then transferred to the rest part of the gut. Although Enterona pusta have two mechanisms of feeding, yet the preferred one is suspension feeding, because these organisms love to stay in their burrows. Um, in suspension feeding, when water enters the inlet, the cilia of these organisms and the glandular cell present on the epidermal layer actually assist the acorn worm in feeding, because these cilia and mucus makes the epidermal sticky, so the food particles present in water attach to these cilia, and mucus layer is accumulated on these food particles. Now these particles, which are accumulated with mucus layer, move backward and ventrally to the mouth, and the tracts of cilia, which is actually present around the mouth, finally um, filter these particles or measure these particles in terms of size. The particles which are appropriate for feeding are transferred to the mouth in the form of a mucoid string and enter into the mouth. While inspecting the food particles, some particles are larger in size, so these particles may reject by acorn worm, as their proboscis have the ability to retract in their collar. So when the big size particles comes towards the mouth, the proboscis retract back towards the collar, and the rejected food particles are trapped in the cilia and move posteriorly towards the collar, so that they can discard easily and cannot enter to the mouth. This diagram demonstrates the whole mechanism of feeding very clearly, and here you see the food particles, which are small in size and can easily transport towards the mouth, and these particles, which are larger in size, how they rejected and present in the form of a ribbon in the around the collar, and after this these food particles, which are actually rejected, um, are moved posteriorly with the movement of the water, and move out of the burrow from the other end of the burrow with the help of water. The digestion is way more simpler than the feeding. They have a complete tubular digestive tract. The most important thing in their digestive tract are the diverticulas, which are called hepatic sacs, which function is to release the digestive enzymes. And after digestion, of course, they have to get rid of their waste in the form of feces or something like that. So the mechanism of defecation is very simple. These organisms at the time of low tide move their illness towards the surface, and allow it to defecate the waste material in the form of coils or cast, which are present on the other opening of the burrow. For excretion and respiration, these organisms generally adopt the mechanism of diffusion, but they perform diffusion in two ways. Number one is diffusion across body wall. These organisms exchange their gases or nitrogenous waste through their body wall, because their body wall is not very thick, so this mechanism is quite convenient to these organisms. And the other mechanism is diffusion through pharyngeal slits. Besides feeding, pharyngeal slit has another role in excretion and respiration. When water move out of the pharyngeal slits, the sinuses which are present around the pharyngeal slits having blood in them exchange their gases with water, and in this way these gases and waste can easily diffuse out of the body. Nervous system of these organisms, just like us, is ectodermal in origin and is present just below to the epidermal layer. It has three components. Number one is dorsal nerve tract, number second is ventral nerve tract, and last but not the least is the nerve plexus, which is irregular network of nerve cells present in the epidermal layer and penetrate deep into the body cells. In some species, a unique character evolved in which the dorsal nerve tract is converted into a dorsal tube which contains giant nerve fibers which are responsible for rapid transmission of impulses. But this character is present in very few species, and there is no major ganglion present in these organisms, and also their sensory receptors are not specialized and are distributed equally all over the body. In this picture, the nervous system has clearly seen. Here is the dorsal nerve cord and this one is the ventral nerve cord, and these are the small nerve fibers or nerve plexus originated from the dorsal nerve cord. Other parts are also very clearly seen in this picture. Now here's something about circulatory system. The circulatory fluid of acorn worm is colorless, and they lack the cellular elements in them. Also their function is the same, just like blood. They distribute nutrients and waste across the body. Upon worms, circulatory system have following component. Number one is dorsal contractile vessel. Number second is ventral contractile vessel. Some sinuses are present where the blood baths the surrounding tissues. And the last one is glomerulus, which is responsible for the filtration of blood. Initially, the blood moves anteriorly in the dorsal vessel and moves posteriorly in the ventral vessel. While blood moves anteriorly in the dorsal vessel, there are a lot of sinuses present in the proboscis region, and this blood from dorsal vessel moves towards the or shifted toward these sinuses which are present in the proboscis. These group of sinuses are called glomerulus, and the function of glomerulus is filtration of blood. After filtration, the waste is present in the proboscis and move out of the proboscis to some pores. The number of these pores are one or two, and the rest of the blood which is now filtered is moved posteriorly through the ventral vessel to the rest of the body. The reproduction and development is not very unique. These are dioecious organisms, which mean their males and females have separate body. Gonads are present in two rows in their body wall at the anterior region of the trunk, or each gonad have separate opening to move their gametes out of the body. So it is clear from here that they have external fertilization. While they are releasing their gametes out of their body, they also release pheromones, which is responsible for inducing other organisms for spawning. So other organisms also stimulate to produce their gametes, and this is responsible for the spawning activity. Ciliated larvae produce as a result of fertilization, which is called tornaria. This larva have the ability to swim for several days, and finally it is settled down on substrate and gradually transform into adult form. That's all for today. If you like my lecture, kindly subscribe and like my lectures.